Hello, lovely people. Today I would love to talk about the 4 types of drawing love to you. And what I mean by that is, which type are you in when you were a child to achieve attention, to get attention and love from your parents and your authority figures around you. So I'm going to start with the first type, and I want you to feel which one you really resonate with. So the first one is the sick one. This type would often get sick as a child, or even subconsciously, not even knowing that it would do this, but break their arms or their legs or something, always be in the doctor's office or the hospital, or it can be less severe, just always feeling flus or little things that would draw their parents' attention to them. So often what you see is that the father is away working a lot, but then when the child gets sick, he actually then really gives attention because there's really something wrong. It could also be a conscious one, where as a child you remember, actually, I remember that if I pretended to be sick, I would get a lot of attention. But it can also be very subconscious, like I said, that you subconsciously had a lot of health issues when you were young and you didn't quite know why, but it was because subconsciously that was the only way how you would get attention from your parents or the people around you that you loved and that you wanted to receive love back from. So that's number one. Number two is the rebel. The rebel is the one that would actually get attention by getting into trouble, by doing things that would actually draw attention almost in a negative way to them, but then at least the parents would listen or the authority figures would listen. And this is a very subconscious one. So they would be expelled from school, they would be expelled from their sports, they would get in trouble, in any other field. It could even be with friends, but they would do things basically to stir up something where the parents would have to get involved, or anyone that they wanted their attention from would have to get involved. And even though it sounds a bit weird that subconsciously you would do that, you would be surprised how often any form of attention for a child that is deprived of feeling loved and feeling deserving attention, that is a way of punishment almost, that you bring up towards yourself to receive any kind of attention. So that is a really interesting one. And just kicking against things. So every time the parent says A, you say B. Every time a teacher tells you to do this, you would do that. And it's also often the ones that don't like authority figures very much. But it's a very fine line to also getting their approval and their attention. So if that wouldn't work, almost have a reverse reaction and kick it away. Then we go to the third one, and the third one is the helper. So it's the one that always helped out in the kitchen with mom or with dad or with the siblings, or helped out with their friends, or is always pleasing. And in doing that, you will get a lot of compliments, or you will get lovely attention from the people that you'd like to feel the love from. So the helper is one that you will also really resonate with. And this is something that started when you were little, but this might be something that you've brought with you still. So you might still recognize it, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So then the fourth one is the, brilliant one. And that's a very important one as well, because the brilliant one is the one that really wanted to get attention by achieving and have wonderful results. And that could be in marks, that could be in sports, that could be in excellence, but where they felt that, if I'm really good at this, then at least my parents or, the people around me that I want so the love from, where I want the attention from, they will then at least see me. And don't get me wrong, all these assets are also positive things in your life. So if you are the achiever and you've always pushed yourself to get that love, at least you've learned to then push yourself and propel yourself into the world and get success as well. Or you might have pushed yourself to help out, and in doing that made a lot of difference in other people's lives. So there is a very good asset in there as well. But what you need to understand, if you do help in cost of self, if you do achieve in cost of self, if you do all those things, even getting sick in cost of self, rebel and cost of self, what happens is that you're doing it for the outer world, but not for your own sense of self, not for your own, from your own true essence and your sovereignty, basically. So that is a very interesting thing to look at now in your life. How much of these subconscious patterns, how much of this type that you maybe have recognized already, are you still living out? So for example, you might be drawn to one of those types, but it might also be that you have two that you can't pick from. So I'd like you to really put that in the chat box today, because I'm so curious and interested to see which of the types you feel resonating with, and which one is the one that you feel, yes, that was a big factor of me in my life and me in interaction with other people. So feel in your life, are you maybe still having health issues sometimes? And it could be that you need attention from your husband or from a few friends. But it could also be, and this is the interesting part of this, that you have health issues coming up because your own subconscious body is calling you back. It could even have to do with self-love. So it doesn't always have to do with love from the outside. It can be also love from within. And this is the interesting thing. Your body then makes you sick to call you back and say, hey, we need to reconnect. So this is a very interesting thing to look at, even with being the helper. Are you helping because you really want to help the people around you? Are you doing things out of obligation or because you want to be liked? Or actually do you do it because you love to help out and it gives you a lot of energy? So that is a very valid question to ask yourself. Now, the last one, or the other two ones, again, do you still like to stir people up or to rebel? And do you do it because you feel that you're actually helping that person, or that you are actually getting something out of that in a positive way? Or do you do it again in some strange form of attention or love-seeking? So all these things, when you've become an achiever, for example, even right now, if you feel that you're always achieving, but you start to compete and compare yourself with others, and you feel that you're doing it for that validation, that's where you have to look, why am I doing this? And you go to that little part within yourself and you hug that part of yourself and you say to that part of yourself, you know what? I know that you want to really achieve and want to compete and want to be the best and get the best out of yourself, but do it for you. Do it for yourself, because I know you can do it. And this is how you talk to that inner part of yourself. You talk to that inner child. When you're always helping out for others, hold that child and say, you're good enough. You're perfect. If you want to help, awesome, but do it because it feels good. Same with the sick one. You don't need to have a health issue to get attention. What do you need? What do you need? What can I give you so that you don't have to go through this again? So this is a self-communication and a self-awareness that is really, really good to embrace and to work with and to play with. And not only for yourself, and this is where it becomes interesting, also for your children. Look at your children if you have children. Which one is the rebel? Which one is the brilliant one? Which one is the little helper? And I've been told that often it's not three helpers in a family. It's often different types. And they might kind of blend with another type as well. But often it's one priority, and they're often different types that they have living amongst each other and next to each other. And so it would be very interesting to see with your children, if they are always helping you to get attention, to give it back to them and say, hey, thank you so much, but you don't have to do that. Or if you do it, you know that I love you anyway, So if anyone or any of your children come to you and they're rebelling, just look at that and see, okay, is this for attention? And what can I do to give them the love so that they don't feel that they have to do that anymore? The same, of course, with all the other types, whether it's the sick one that often has illnesses, and look at your family dynamic. Does this child actually get more attention when it's sick? And I'm not saying that every sick child in this world has that pattern. I have seen children that have been sick in the past and even going through cancer, and it had nothing to do with this lesson. They actually were an achiever, or they actually were even a helper, and the illness had a completely different lesson. So look at what resonates for you when you look at your children and also your siblings. Where were you in the family dynamic? Which role did you play? Which role did your siblings play? That is a really interesting thing to look at. And how are you still acting out in this moment in your life? How are you still fulfilling those roles in your family dynamic? So I'd like for you to write that out maybe, or to look in this next week. How do you really feel that you are still being lived by that old pattern of getting attention? And you might have months where you don't even think about it and you're great, and then all of a sudden there's a little insecure phase. We're human beings, so we go through waves where, oh my God, I'm doing it again, I'm creating this situation again. Okay, turn back to the child, give it a hug, ask it what it needs, and give it all the words that you as a child in that moment so needed to hear. So again, write in the chat box which type you are. I'd love to hear. And your children, if you want to share, and any epiphanies that you had out of this video. Don't feel like you have to. I just like to share because, you know, it's a really nice thing to keep in the back of your mind and to play with, to get to know yourself better, and to really step into your own balance and your own strength and your own power. So have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Mwah.